welcome. Tonight we are talking about recruitment isn't over, but it is different. My name is Tina Van Steenbergen. I know some of you know who I am and some of you have no idea who I am, but some stranger or some advisor or friend of yours sent this to you and told you to come and you're like, okay, sure, I guess. Because at least now you can come to these things without pants on. So it's way easier to come. I'm glad you're here, whether you know my name or not. I'm going to tell you about me either way. So it's perfect. My name is Tina. I am a professional public speaker. I travel the country on a normal world, or my old normal, I guess, and talk to women. I, in my life, am on a mission to help women feel less alone in the world. Sorority is a place where I do a lot of that work because for me, joining a sorority is one of the things that helped me learn that I am not alone in the world. So my work is my favorite thing in the world to do. In this new world that we live in, I am now a professional virtual public speaker. So I spend a lot of time on Zoom, and believe it or not, I'm still learning how on earth it works. So there's definitely still room for mistakes here tonight. Buckle up. Thanks so much for being here. I am originally from St. Paul, Minnesota. I live in Minneapolis with my husband, who I'm obsessed with, my dog, who I'm also obsessed with. A lot of my friends and family live here too. I love Minnesota. It's one of my favorite places. Living in Minneapolis these last several weeks has been even more powerful and made me even more proud to be from here. So that's been really special to be a part of. I know that I don't talk like I'm from Minnesota. That is on purpose. The Minnesota accent is tough to take seriously, y'all, especially virtually. Like in person, you can at least get my folksy charm with it. Virtually, it's just like, oh, hey there, grab your bag, we'll get on the boat. We're not going to do that today. Okay, I'm not going to talk to you like that today. Like I said, I am married. My husband is my favorite person on the planet. He's also my business partner because he is also a professional public speaker. Yes, we just motivate the shit out of each other. That's all we do in our household. I subscribe to the religion of Lizzo. That is important for you to know about me up top. I think she's a goddess and I love her. She inspires me in millions of ways. I'm pretty sure I'm funny. That's important for you to know about me. You don't have to think I'm funny, but I'm pretty sure I'm funny. So you can laugh with me or at me. I can't tell the difference. But if you don't laugh tonight, we're doing this wrong. Especially now, life is too damn hard not to laugh. So let's try to laugh a little bit. Also, if you are having a beverage tonight, I'm going to say especially now. I'm guessing several times. If you want to make a drinking game out of it, go ahead, get after it. Mac and cheese is my favorite food. I'm obsessed with it. Almost as obsessed I am with my dog, who's my favorite creature. And she's currently trotting outside this room because she's really sad she wasn't invited to the party. But then the party would be about Sherry the dog and not about us. And so we're going to make sure it's about us. Yes, my dog's name is Sherry. So the other important person in my world that I want to tell you about who's here tonight is Laura. You can see her listed as one of the panelists. Her name is actually Laura Lavender. That is not a made-up name. Laura Lavender works with James and I. We call her our team captain. She just like keeps the ship moving and helps our brains create magic in the world. And she is magic in the world. Laura will be in the chat tonight, so if you have specific questions for us, I can't focus on the chat and focus on talking at the same time. So Laura takes care of the chat so that I can just be present right here. So if you have questions for us, you can toss them in the chat. Laura will also be helping us with the question and answer part, which is the next thing I need you to know. I want you to use the chat to talk to each other and to talk about the things. If you hear an idea you really love, chat about it. If you have a question about an idea I shared, chat about it. But we do this webinar style so that we can use the Q&A feature. So as I'm talking tonight, if you have questions about how an idea I have or something I share with you tonight can make sense in your community, your chapter, your organization, please toss it in there. And then at the end of all of the content tonight, we'll do Q&A because I want to answer your questions and make sure that this is actually as relevant as possible for all of you tonight. Last housekeeping matter, speaking of all of you, I know many of you are here from Panhellenic organizations. This is not a Panhellenic conversation. We will talk about Panhellenic recruitment, but we're also going to talk about growth models that don't exist in a Panhellenic space. We have sisters here from organizations that are not a part of any specific umbrella organization. We have sisters here from multicultural organizations. We have sisters here from MPHC organizations, and we're going to talk about growth in all of those spaces. So I want you to know that I believe that everything I'm going to say is helpful to most of you, if not all of you. But regardless of what council you're a part of, regardless of what your letters are, I'm glad that you're here, because growth is a part of what all of us do. And it's something that has gotten extra complicated, especially now. So please stay here, participate, ask questions, and have fun with everybody. Cool? Only the thing you need to know about me is that I'm a sorority woman. That feels relatively relevant in this moment of time. I'm a member of Alpha Gamma Delta. We are a Panhellenic organization, and I love being a member of an organization. I was never going to join a sorority, and it has been one of the most important decisions I've made in my life. I feel like a lot of us in the sorority space sort of split into one of two camps. There might be a third camp in the middle here, but there are people, and I would love for you to self-identify here in the chat. I know there are some of us here who freaking love growth and recruitment. You love the idea of connecting with potential members. You love the idea of your information sessions. You love the idea of crossing a new line and letting the legacy of your organization live on. You love the idea of the bump rotations, of the door stacks, of the songs, you love recruitment. It brings you joy. It brings you purpose. Maybe it's your little extroverted heart. Maybe it's your event planner. Maybe it's all the above. There are plenty of sorority women who definitely beautifully enjoy the recruitment and growth experiences. And then there are plenty of us in the other camp who are not that person, who do not enjoy the recruitment and growth process, who maybe didn't have a great experience as a potential member going through their process, or really have a hard time with it as a recruiter or as somebody on the membership side. Maybe they just have a really hard time with it. I would also love for you to self-identify, because there is no shame in that. And then there are plenty of people who sort of sit somewhere in between, and recruitment is like a thing we have to do, and it's not my greatest passion, but I don't hate it. And that's totally fine. I start this way because I need you to know that I am somebody in camp number 2. I am not a recruitment lover, okay? And I know for some of you that's going to be surprising because I'm talking about it professionally. There are plenty of women who work in sorority recruitment because they love it, and I love those women. I'm just not one of them. I'm somebody who works in recruitment because I want to make it better. Because I think that recruitment, our processes of growth, are sometimes the biggest barriers to keeping badass women out of our organizations. I don't love the way recruitment looks from the outside in, okay? From the outside looking in, recruitment looks bananas. I want you to think about like a stranger walking down a street at a Greek row before Panhellenic recruitment at an SEC school. That shit is bananas. There are so many pieces of it that from the outside looking in feel alienating and uncomfortable. And whether it be in a Panhellenic space with the cheering and the clapping and the matching t-shirts and the screaming, or in a multicultural or MPC space where there's jackets, maybe masks, everything feels secretive and hidden, and there are plenty of things that make people feel like, I don't know about all this. And I think sometimes our processes keep people out. Even our COB processes, which generally speaking, for those of you who don't know, COB is continuous open bidding, or COR, continuous open recruitment. These are usually Panhellenic or predominantly white organizations who just don't recruit in that formal, like crazy time structured recruitment setting, but sort of recruit all year round instead. Even COB and COR recruitment can be a little intimidating because you're still asking a stranger to come hang out with you and all your friends who wear matching t-shirts and bake cupcakes to get to know each other. It's intense. It can be alienating, and it's a lot for people to process. And I think we have to laugh at recruitment a little bit on the front end. We have to bring some joy into it because we also now have to mourn it a little bit. Even if you are somebody like me who doesn't love the recruitment process and doesn't love the way we grow our organizations, those processes have been a part of the way that we exist in the world for a very, very long time. I'm not going to call them normal because I'm not sure there's anything normal about it, but they were our normal, right? It was a given. It was an unquestionable. Of course we're going to recruit. Of course we're going to add a line. Of course people are going to cross this semester. Of course, of course, of course. And now A lot of those of courses, a lot of those things that we just knew would happen won't happen, at least not in the way that we know them to. Recruitment isn't over, but it feels like it is. It can feel like growth isn't going to happen. For some of you in your organizations, it actually won't. Some of your organizations have put a moratorium on taking a line this semester. You actually won't be able to add new members. So it really does feel like it's over. And for those of you that are able to bring new members into your organization this semester, the how you're going to do that, the when you're going to do that, the how you're going to do that is mind-boggling. Is so different from what we are used to. Now, the whole world is different in some really painful ways and in some really important ways. And so, of course, recruitment is going to be different also. The whole world is different. So, of course, sorority is going to be different also. But because we are driven, high-achieving women, I think a lot of us are trying to move quickly to the, okay, what now? Let me plan it. Let me fix it. Let me solve it. And if we don't take a second to pause and mourn the fact that we're losing some of our normal, that experiences that we counted on as members are now just evaporating, and if not evaporating, greatly shifting and changing. If we don't take a second to let ourselves feel those feelings, then whatever way we move through growth into the fall semester is going to feel clunky and inauthentic and frustrating because we haven't let ourselves feel the sadness, the complication of all of these changes happening so quickly and so drastically. That being said, I don't think this is all bad. And I am not a silver linings person, okay? I am not the person that comes, like you come to me and you're like, I just lost my pet. And I'm like, oh, but here's the good part about that. Like, I'm not that human. I am not somebody that is going to seek to find the silver lining in everything. I don't even think this is silver lining. I just think that there is goodness here. In all of this change that we are going through as women's organizations, I think goodness is going to come out of it. Goodness certainly has the potential to come out of it. I believe that goodness can come out of this. I don't think this is all bad. Regardless of your counsel, regardless of your letters, I have been traveling the country talking to all kinds of sorority women for almost a decade now. And it doesn't matter where I am in the country. It doesn't matter what kind of organization I'm talking to or the recruiting strength of that organization. Doesn't matter. Every single time we talk about growth or recruitment, I hear women like you say sentences like, oh, if we could just do it our way, we would do it like this. Or why do we have to do it this way? If we could just. We have felt stuck and trapped by our traditions. We have been stuck and trapped by our traditions. And that might be because our traditions were working and we were growing and there was no room to change. It might be because change is uncomfortable and doing it is scary. It might be because there are people in charge who don't want to change, and so that makes us feel like we can't change. But we get to reimagine now. For the first time in my sorority experience, we genuinely get to reimagine the way we add members to our organizations. Recruitment and growth have not been a place where imagination thrives. Like maybe you get to imagine a new theme. Maybe you get to imagine a new presentation. Maybe you get to imagine the way that you color coordinate, right? But like there hasn't been a lot of innovation present because there's been so much structure and tradition keeping us from innovating. And now we get to reimagine things. We get to innovate. We have to innovate to survive. Now, do we get to reimagine it exactly as we would choose? No, there are certainly parameters here. I don't know that any of us would actively choose a virtual recruitment process. So I know that there are certainly still limitations that don't feel like we're entirely free. But the truth is that even the virtual setting creates freedom in its own right, creates its own imagination and its own innovation. We get to dream now. We get to dream it, we get to build it, and we get to create it. We are in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat of what your growth and recruitment processes will look like. And I know there are ways we can make it better. And that's why I get all fired up about this. That's why I get really passionate about it, because I know that there are women out there who need sorority, who deserve sorority, who wouldn't join us based on our normal recruitment processes, who wouldn't join us because of the way that we grow. And I think if that's a barrier we can lower. So there are 3 ways I want us to focus on changing the way that we grow. Okay, 3 sort of spheres of this new world we live in and how recruitment needs to adjust to them. So we're going to dig into each sphere. Again, I want you to use Q&A. Again, I want you to chat in the chat. Follow each other on social media if you'd like. Put your handles in there. Let's be real friends outside of Zoom. But I want to help you dream a little bit. Okay. I want to help you feel less stress. I know this process feels super stressful, more than normal. This process might always be stressful, but now it's insane. So I want you to feel less stress. I want you to feel more comfort, and I want you to feel more creativity. I don't need you to do exactly what I tell you. I need you to take what I tell you and let it bloom and blossom and grow into your own thing, right? So the first area I want us to focus on is connection. That is the first area of recruitment shift that I want us to dig into, this idea of connection. Now, some of you immediately are like, Tina, we don't need to shift connection. We always connect in recruitment. That's like what we do. And I know it's what we're supposed to do. It's what we've been saying we do for quite some time now. In our Panhellenic world, we talk a lot about values-based recruitment and how we really talk about the person and what they value, the chapter and what they value. And I think our MGC and MPHC sisters surely do this better than we do, are far more focused on connection, because the period of getting to know people before they join our organization is so much more lengthy and so much more intentional. But there are still structures to it that keep us from getting to know each other in certain ways, right? We could all use a little bit more connection in organizations that were designed to help women connect with one another. And I think this new world that we live in requires that sororities prioritize connection. We have to prioritize connection. Regardless of your process, regardless of your counsel, connection is going to be what matters. For a few reasons, right? First of all, the way sorority exists now is different. What we get out of sorority membership is going to look different based on the way that if we go back in the fall semester or not, what the rules are about gathering when we go back. So much of sorority life requires us to be in the same room together at the same time. And if we can't do that anymore, then what does sorority mean? What are we doing? If we can't do the service we always do together as a chapter, then how do we build sisterhood? If we can't all sit together in the same room at the same time, how do we build sisterhood? If we can't go to tailgates together or mix with other organizations, how are we going to build sisterhood? And the truth is because we're going to prioritize connection. It's because we're going to take the connection out of those various scenarios and just let it exist as connection. Not connection through service, not connection through sitting in the same room at the same time, not connection through tailgates, just women caring about other women. I think that is the way that sororities will survive this in general, and certainly will survive this in a growth process. Because in growth, it has been so much easier for us to prioritize perfection over connection. We have prioritized perfection over connection. And that's not going to work anymore, because nobody can do this shit perfectly. It's too crazy. There are too many questions. There are too many unknowns. Zoom is a question mark. Internet is a question mark. There are so many things we cannot control right now that nobody is going to do this perfectly. There is no such thing as perfect, which is really freeing, because it means we can't do it perfectly. It means it won't be perfect. So we no longer need to stress about perfection, because it doesn't exist. Instead, we can focus on our members genuinely connecting with other women, as opposed to being worried they're not doing it perfectly, or standing perfectly, or moving perfectly, or asking the perfect next question. We can just connect. Just let them talk to each other. That will make a huge difference. Can you imagine what it would be like if sorority recruitment meant love is blind? Okay. I'm like talking about Love is Blind, the reality TV show on Netflix that came out at the beginning of quarantine that everybody watched really quickly. Not everybody, it took me a long time to watch it, and I know some of you have not watched it. So let me give you a premise recap. It is literally about human beings not being able to see or touch each other. They exist with wall space between them, and all they can do is talk. The only way they can build relationships is to talk to one another. That's the point. That's the point. There are so many superficial elements of the way that we bring women into our organizations, whether or not they look the type, whether or not they act the type, whether or not they have the right hair color, the right skin color, the right wardrobe. Now, judgment happens when you see somebody, and there's nothing you can do about that. Judging somebody for their appearance is a human thing, nothing you can do about it. And it plays a part in the way that we recruit. It plays a part in the way that we invite women into these organizations. Biases exist, and they shift the way that we have conversations with each other. If the only thing you can see about me in our first 3 interactions is what I look like from my shoulders to the top of my head, you have so much less ability to judge me because you have so much less to judge. You can't see how good my ass looks in these pants right now. It does. But you can't see that. You can't see what shoes I'm wearing right now. Am I wearing shoes? Am I wearing pants? You don't know. And you can't judge me for that. You have to take what you can see right here and connect with it. As much as you can look somebody in the eyes on a computer screen, as much as you can listen to somebody without other notifications distracting you, this is all we've got to build relationships. None of the superficial stuff, none of the, oh my God, your shoes are so cute. None of the, that girl looks like one of us. We should probably make sure we talk to her. That's gone. What I love about that is that it allows, in a weird way, I think it allows authenticity to shine. It allows the authenticity of your members, air conditioner, sorry. It allows the authenticity of your members. It allows the authenticity of potential members to come screaming through. Because so much of the beginning of getting to know each other feels like a performance. And so much of that performance is over now. So much of it has to just be raw, genuine, authentic conversation. I want you to put this in the chat. I want you to think about this. What would happen if your chapter couldn't see people you were seeking membership from? What if the only thing you could do was listen to that person talk and talk back to them? How would that shift the way that you bring members into your organization? How would that change the way your process works? If you couldn't see them, or if you could see them, you could only see one small part of their world, as opposed to their whole body in one space sitting across from you, or talking to you on campus. Caitlin, that's a really, or maybe Caitlin didn't do it. Violet said it. They're just going to stalk them on social media. That's 100% valid, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. Nothing we can do to stop that. Except to remember that social media is this like creepily curated version of everybody's most perfect life, which we're going to come back to in a minute. I know that they're going to stalk them on social media, but the interaction themselves still has to happen right here. And somebody who looks great on social media can suck at conversation. And somebody who's great at conversation might not have a very active Instagram profile, but you might fall in love with them on this little screen, listening to the words come out of their mouth. The conversations can be so much more intentional. The relationships can actually be built. And for those of you leading groups of women who are adding members to your process, I want you to think about how much more comfortable your members will feel if they can just talk to somebody instead of being worried if they look perfect while they're doing it. Instead of being worried if they're saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing. Here's the way I'm thinking about this. I feel like our old growth systems are like Instagram. Okay? Stick with me. They're very perfect. They're very polished. They're very filtered, right? The way that we show up on Instagram is very much the way we were showing up in our old world. Yeah? In our new world, recruitment is like TikTok. It is way more authenticity, not that people aren't inauthentic on TikTok, but you know what I mean? Like it is storytelling, it is goofy moments, it is dancing, it is more personality, it is more sharing. It's not just show this like picture perfect picture of myself. It's let me put on 17 outfits in 13 seconds. Let me master this dance that the rest of the world has mastered, right? Like it is taking what we normally do as a presentation of ourselves and making it more creative, more animated, more fun. That's how I like to think about this. We are moving our growth processes from an Instagram world to a TikTok world. Because that's also, frankly, where all the women who are going to be members of your organization are spending most of their time. So we just need to shift it a little bit, get more creative, and add more energy to it, right? I think the connection will be better. And for those of you that aren't allowed to take lines this semester, for those of you that are not allowed to add members to your organization, that doesn't mean you can't connect with potential members. That doesn't mean that you can't get to know women. I know we don't recruit. I know that. I know multicultural organizations do not actively seek out potential members, and I'm not asking you to. But I think there are ways we can show up and connect with new women on campus, build friendships just because women need friendships with other women, so that when it comes time that we can bring a line, we already have a bunch of badass women that we think are dope, that we love to have conversations with, who might be interested in sorority, who we might be interested in. I think we can still connect even if we can't technically add membership right now, because it's also a world of COVID-19, and we also all need more connection in our lives now than we have ever before. Okay? Number one. Number two, the second area I want us to focus on is social media. Okay? I want us to think about the way that we use social media. We use social media to connect with each other. Yes. For my Panhellenic sisters in the room, we now for the first time, and for our multicultural sisters in the room, bear with us, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's a real thing. Forever, Panhellenic women have not been able to use social media or any form of communication to connect with potential members on their way to college from May through into the fall, right? Until the recruitment process is over. And now, because of recruiting in a world of COVID-19, we've been given permission to have conversations, sorority positive conversations with potential members for the first time ever. We've been told to talk to them after years of being strictly told not to talk to them. And for our multicultural sisters in the room, we have an opportunity to connect with women, again, not seeking out to recruit them, but just to be good people. All of us have the opportunity now to use social media to do good for these women. Here's what I want you to think about. These women, these incoming first-year students, and I know you're not only recruiting first-year students, but let's talk about this group of women specifically first. This group of women coming in probably didn't have a prom, probably didn't have a graduation, probably didn't have the opportunity to go on that great trip she was planning, probably didn't have an opportunity to work her summer job, probably didn't have an opportunity to say goodbye to a lot of her friends and things she's known her entire life. And perhaps most relevant for us in this conversation, didn't get an on-campus orientation experience. Can you imagine how hard it would be to go to college if you didn't get to go to orientation first? Some of you have had that experience. It's complicated. People make friends at orientation. People like even form cliques at orientation. And then they show up and already have humans they know and like. At orientation, you get to explore what it means to live on campus. You get to participate in learning about all these organizations and start to dream about ways you can get involved on campus. And instead of being on campus with the spirit of being on a college campus in the middle of the summer, like the excitement and the joy of starting college, right? You don't get any of that. Instead, they sat in probably one of the rooms in their parents' house where they've been living since March and clicked through the organization options, which might have included sororities. They clicked through some course options, and all of those feelings, all of that excitement about starting college and all the dreaming that can occur about what college is going to be like, it was hard for them to do sitting on a laptop clicking around. Can you imagine how many questions they must have? How many things they're still wondering about? Like, do I bring a shower caddy, or is that just something lame my mom thinks I need? Will they make fun of my sheets? Do I bring sheets? Do I get to live on campus? Some people don't know yet if they get to live on campus or not. Some people don't know if they're actually going to school in person in the fall. There is so much they don't know that many of us got to learn weeks, months before we started college. What if we, as sorority women, used social media as a tool to connect with those women and help them Be their friend. Ask them how they're feeling about starting college. Ask them if they have any questions that they didn't get to ask at orientation because they didn't get to have an orientation. What if we just chose to be good people? And I mean, I don't want you to lead with, hi, I'm Tina. I'm a member of Alpha Gamma Delta. We're really excited to meet you in the fall. Do you have any questions about sorority life? Because that is about us. That ask is about who we are. I don't want you to worry about you. I want you to worry about her. What if you slid into her DMs because you went to high school with her and you know she's coming to college, the same school that you go to? What if you slid into her DMs and you were like, hey, how the hell are you? What a time to be alive. How are you feeling about starting school in the fall? And just started chatting with her. Not trying to recruit her, not trying to persuade her, not desperately waiting till she mentions sorority so that you can be like, yes, let me tell you all about it. Just genuinely tried to be there for her as a person in the world. I don't know if there could be a better way to recruit somebody than to stop trying to recruit them and just help them instead. There are so many women who need friends, who need a social life, who need connection. And we know sorority can provide them with that. They might not know that yet. And we don't have to lead with, let me show you all the amazing things sorority can do for you. Let me instead just be an example of sisterhood. Let me instead just care about you. Just help you. Just be your sister even before you cross or we recruit you. What if I'm just kind to you because I'm a good person and I think it's important to help people? Is she going to ask about sorority? Maybe. Are you going to tell her about it? Maybe. Maybe not. But even if not, I don't think that was a waste of time. Even if not, you still got to help somebody who's going through a lot. Even if not, you might have just made a new friend. Maybe she can't afford sorority. Maybe she's not interested in sorority. Maybe she's really focused on school. Maybe she works 3 jobs and doesn't have time. She's still a woman in the world. Sometimes I think we in sorority think that our values only extend to our sisters. And that's crap. If you're going to be a good sister, I want you to be a good sister to all women, whether or not they're members, whether or not they are interested in being members. So if you are wondering how to leverage your social media power, that's what I want you to do. I want you to be a good person. I want you to reach out to her. I want you to care about her, and I want you to help her. And if the conversation at some point returns to sorority, then I want you to tell her about it. But what if it didn't? What if we just lived our values and did the right thing because it was the right thing to do? Bonus, when we do the right thing, we attract the right women, and we do bring women into our organizations. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. It will help you grow. But I don't want you to do it because it'll help you grow. I want you to do it because it's the right thing to do. I want you to do it because if you were that woman, you would really love if somebody did it for you. I want you to do it because women deserve to be loved by other women. And since that's what we believe in as sorority women, we could model that pretty easily. That's how I want your individual members to utilize your social media. But, sorry, hang on, I'm gonna drink some water. I'm not sorry, I'm just thirsty. That's how I want your individual members to utilize social media and how I would love for you to give them permission to do so. But as organizations, I know each of you has your own organizational Instagram or TikTok account. And some of you had sent in some questions before we started tonight about Tina. We don't know how to navigate using our social media to talk about recruitment and growth right now, given everything that's happening in the world. It feels like that's exactly what we're supposed to do, but it also feels really tone deaf to do that. How do we don't know what to do with that. And I hear you. Laura and I have been talking about this for weeks. Like I told you, I live in Minneapolis. Laura lives in St. Paul. So we are been pretty heavily connected to the murder of George Floyd and everything that has come as a result of that. And so in that space, we've spent a lot of time talking about, there was a lot of recruitment things planned in our calendar for the month of June that we stopped because there were more important things happening in the world. And then there's the, okay, but we're getting really close to August and we have to start recruiting with this webinar, y'all. We were going to have this webinar in early June, but that got really awkward really quickly and is obviously not the right thing to do. So we pushed it back and pushed it back. And we debated whether or not this was too soon to do it, because the world is still having really important conversations about race and equity and justice, conversations that have been very long overdue and that are powerful and important. And so how do we try to make it about recruitment right now? And I'm not going to lie, I don't know if we did it right. I don't know. And I think you're going to have that fight too in your own social media accounts. And I don't know if I have the answer for you, but I do understand. What I will say is this. We did put out a post about this webinar, which is about sorority recruitment, in the mix of putting out other important posts, right? In the mix of the fundraiser we did for a ton of organizations that are fighting racial justice and equity fights right now, right? We did put this recruitment out as we posted about how if we still arrested the police who murdered Breonna Taylor. We did make sure that our whole stream of media didn't just become about recruitment and pretend like the rest of the world didn't stop turning, right? So I think there can be a mixture of it. I think there can. The other thing that I want you to think about is that when you post about things you believe in, if your chapter wants to post about Black Lives Matter, if your chapter wants to post about Breonna Taylor's murderers, if your chapter wants to post about Elijah McCain's murderers, if your chapter wants to use their social media account and its voice and its power to do good in the world, I'm never going to tell you not to. I also want to remind you that when you do that, it is recruitment. It is growth. Because the women who see that and identify with that and appreciate that and value that will seek you out, will respect you, will see themselves as a part of your organization or see themselves in your organization. When you use your social media to speak about important things, it does bring members into your organization, the right ones who believe in the same things that you do. So I don't ever want you to feel like we should be posting about recruitment, and I know that's what I'm supposed to do, but this event happened that I really feel called. Talk about it. Use your voice, use your social media power and presence, and do good in the world. And the women who see that and respond to that will want to join you, or at least be a little bit more interested in the conversation. You're not alienating members. You're inviting them to join your conversation. And that is recruitment. So that's social media. That's number 2. Number 3, I don't want to vent too long about, but this is the question I have gotten the most often, honestly, since George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis, and I can't not talk about it. I can't not make sure that we take up space to have this conversation. The question that I have been asked the most often by predominantly white organizations is, Tina, how do we add more Black women to our chapter? That is the question I have gotten most often. I believe that the question comes from a really good place. I believe you see the world changing. I believe you see the mostly white women around you. I believe you see the value in adding diversity to your chapter and are seeking to try to do that as a response to the racial justice uprising that we are currently living in. I think it comes from a good place, but it is not the appropriate solution. It's not even the appropriate question. I know where it comes from. I do, and I'm not judging you for it. The reason it's not the appropriate question is because in that instance, in asking that question, first of all, we are focused on ourselves, not the women we're recruiting, not the women of color in the world. Second of all, if we seek to add Black women to our chapter as a response to what's happening in the world, Black women, Indigenous women, and people of color in general, that is a form of tokenizing them. Like, look at us, we're all white. We need some Black women. We'll take this one, and then look at us, we're diverse. And that's not actual diversity. It's not actual inclusion. It's just asking Black women to step into a situation to make us look, what, better, different, more diverse? The real question we need to be asking is, Tina, choose your words, are our chapters safe places for women of color? Are our chapters safe places for Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color? more often than not, our very, especially in the Panhellenic world, our very whitewashed version of sorority is not. Many of our MGC and MPHC sisters, the answer is resoundingly, positively, yes, it is. In which case, please go recruit more women of color. Go, do it. We can't just add women of color to our chapters and call it diversity or inclusion. What we need to do is make sure that our organizations are safe places for those human beings first. And that work can be done without adding those human beings to our organizations as tokens. We can do the work inside. And then women of color who are very capable of finding organizations all on their own might be more drawn to us. They don't need you to draw them a map. Like, they get the same information as everybody else. The reason they don't come to us isn't because they don't know we exist. It's because our organizations, especially from the outside looking in, don't look like safe places, usually aren't safe places for Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color. So I don't want you to go fishing for them. I want you to do the work as predominantly white women. I want you to own that there might be some members in your chapter that don't believe that Black Lives Matter. There might be some members of your organization who have said racist things or posted racist Snapchats or TikToks that you've had to deal with in the past several weeks, trying to take them down and reckon with their membership in your organization. There might be practices in our rituals, in our founding principles as Panhellenic organizations that are created to alienate and keep out women of color. We have to own and recognize and do work on those things before we can invite other women to join our organizations. Your chapter probably isn't diverse. It probably isn't yet inclusive. So let's work on making it that. Even when it's a white group of people, let's make it inclusive. Let's make it a space where everybody can feel safe and welcome before we try to force people into our organization. I hope that makes sense. This is a radical thing. It's the last thing I'm gonna say on this topic, but I've been thinking about it for weeks and I'm not gonna not say it out loud. And since no one can stop me, I'm gonna say it out loud. I wonder what would happen or what would keep us from asking the question in recruitment. Do you believe Black Lives Matter? Do I believe that we should make potential new members uncomfortable? Not intentionally, no. But that being said, we have avoided having conversations about politics. Again, for my MGC and PH sisters, this is mostly a Panhellenic rant, and I apologize for that, but it feels like a worthy Panhellenic rant. We have been avoiding politics in recruitment for a really long time. So we don't have conversations about race or Black Lives Matter because we don't talk about politics. Black Lives Matter is not political. It's not a political conversation. Black Lives Matter is not a political sentence. It is a sentence about humanity. It is a sentence about morality. It is a sentence about value. And we purport to run a values-based organization and a values-based recruitment process, but we're afraid to talk about race and whether or not people of a different race have value in our world. We have to stop avoiding it. You have racists in your chapter because we avoid talking about it. And then she's in your chapter and she's drunk and she's popping off and we all of a sudden have to deal with it because we gave her a badge. We invited her in. I would love to live in a world where we could have a conversation about Black Lives Matter and about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and Elijah McClain in recruitment. I would love if we could do that. I don't know that we're there yet, and I think there are several baby steps we can make along the way. But the point is that if you would I don't know if sorority recruitment and the Black Lives Matter movement and the racial uprising we're currently a part of intersect right now. I don't know if they do, but I know that that intersection is not, let's add Black women to our predominantly white organizations. I believe if there is an intersection between sorority and what's happening in the world, it is education. It is us turning chapter meetings into opportunities to learn and read books and listen to Black voices and Black stories and Black joy and Black power and letting ourselves become a less whitewashed version of the world. I believe it is partnering with our MPHC and MGC sisters and not just in a service opportunity and not just to watch them step and stroll, because they serve so many more purposes than that. I think there could be intersections between sorority and the movement we are watching right now. I don't know if recruitment is that intersection, and it feels like a place for action, but I just don't know that we're there yet. So I would just encourage you to be cautious in those spaces. So those are the 3 things I want you to think about. I want you to think about prioritizing connection over all the other pieces to the recruitment and growth puzzle. I want you to think about how social media can be used as a tool to, yes, grow your organization, or at least the pool from which you select members. But most importantly, how you can use social media as a tool to help these women adjust to campus in meaningful ways. And I want you to be very careful and very cognizant about how we use recruitment to participate in the movement happening right now. I want us to be intentional about our values and the value of human beings. So those are the 3 things I have for you to think about in a recruitment and growth world of COVID-19. I know you have questions, okay? And I would love for you to ask them. If you type them in the chat, I want you to put it in the Q&A because I want to be able to answer them. And they don't have to be about these 3 buckets. It can be about, Tina, how do I talk to my members about this? Because they don't care. It can be about, Tina, what if there's a moratorium for an entire year? How am I going to add value in members to my organization? It can be about, how the hell are we going to connect over Zoom? It can be about, what is preference going to look like if we're standing 6 feet apart from each other? There are literally no rules. I'm going to answer questions. I'm going to be here for a while answering questions. If you need to go, before you do, the only other thing I want to tell you is I want to help you. I believe that sorority is more relevant now than ever. And I want to help you add women to your organizations. I want to help you bond with women. I want to help. And so I've developed several resources. I can do virtual stuff for you. I can do in-person stuff for you. I have a recorded class you could participate in. I can just get on a phone call with you and brainstorm. I have a lot of ways that I can help you. So Laura is going to type my website, my recruitment part of my website, into the chat so that you have it. We're also going to send it out in an email, so don't worry. You'll get it if you don't want to look at it right now. But there are plenty of ways there that I can help you. So if you want to get on a phone call with me and brainstorm intentionally, whether about these services or just about your own growth process, please do that. Send us an email, fill out the form on the website, and we will get you on my calendar and we will talk. It is my full-time job to help you with this. This is what I do. So please, please reach out and let us know if we can be helpful to you. And if you have to go, I care about you a lot. I'm really glad you were here. Thanks for coming to my 45-minute long TED Talk about sorority recruitment. We're going to do questions now. I don't know if I'm going to get through them all, but I'm going to try. I'm also going to try to be as brief as possible, but brevity ain't my gift. So give me some space. I'm going to do my best. Let's see what these are all about. Question number 1. Anna asked if I have advice for members who are experiencing recruitment for the first time this year as an active member. So I'm assuming we're meeting in a Panhellenic context, but I think this would be relevant for women of all organizations. Let's say you were initiated this last academic year. So you went through some sort of process, whether you crossed last year or you went through recruitment last year, formal or informal. And it was a normal process, right? It was what we always do. And now all of a sudden it's different, right? Now all of a sudden it's virtual and maybe not, but hybrid, but maybe both. It's a lot. My advice to you is to tell them to focus on connecting with potential members. Because normally in our other processes, they can't prioritize that because they have to prioritize so many other things. And I think building relationships, having authentic conversations is something that's going to help us and help them feel more comfortable in a space that is very uncomfortable. The other thing that I would say to all recruiters, whether you be experienced or not, I need you can't not talk about COVID-19. We cannot avoid it. We cannot not talk about it because it impacted literally everybody in some way, shape, or form. So we have to talk about it, but we can't only talk about it. We could literally talk about what we did in quarantine for several hours and bond over that, but sisterhood is not going to be built on the back of COVID-19. We need to acknowledge quarantine. We need to acknowledge COVID-19 and some of the grossness that comes with that. People lost lives. People lost family and money and experienced genuine hardship. And we need to show up for these women and have those real conversations. But we also need to look through COVID-19 to other pieces, right? We have to look at who they are as women outside of what has happened in COVID-19 world. So those are the two pieces that I would tell you that are helpful for potential members. Chris McLean, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. Okay, next question is from Mallory. What advice do you have for promoting sorority and communicating with potential members? We talked about this a lot. I want you to show up for them as humans first before you show up for them as sorority women. I don't want you to lead with sorority because more likely than not, sorority is not her top priority in life right now. And if it is, she'll ask you about it. She'll go to your profile, she'll see your Greek letters in your profile, and she'll ask you a question. You don't need to lead with it because if it is a priority for her, she'll get there. And if it's not a priority for her and you lead with it, then it sounds like that's what you care about, not her. So I want you to show up and be kind to her as a woman in the world first. That is where I'd like you to start. And then as she asks questions, as you make sure that she knows that you're there to answer questions, she might ask about sorority. It might not come up naturally. You might get to a point in the conversation, hopefully not like the third question you ask her. Hopefully at some point in the conversation, you feel comfortable saying, have you ever thought about sorority? And then you can throw it that way. And maybe she'll say, oh my God, yes, I can't wait to go through recruitment, even though it's going to be weird as hell. And she might say, no, I don't join cults. And then you have to have a different conversation. But I want you to communicate with her as a human first. I don't want you to treat her like a potential member. I want you to treat her like a woman in the world. So I hope that's helpful. Next question. How can we ensure comfort and eliminate the extra awkwardness that the discussion over virtual platforms have? Retweet. That's a great question. I am on a mission in my life to eradicate awkward virtual experiences, except now that's all I do. So I think the fact that we're all awkward about it helps us, right? It's like if you showed up to a party and you were the only person in a costume, that'd be weird. That'd be weird as hell. And it'd be awkward. But if you show up to a costume party, it's not weird. Does this make sense? Everybody's on Zoom and everybody knows it's weird. And so the fact that we're all in this awkward boat together, I think allows us to, first of all, point it out. Right? Normally when we're talking about things we're awkward or insecure about, we don't talk about it because we don't want to draw attention to it. But if it were me, this is also just the person I am in the world, so this is not everybody's tea, but I would point it out and be like, this is weird. Yeah, this is really weird. And acknowledge it so that we can laugh about it and move on. Because I think if we acknowledge it, we're creating space for it instead of trying to avoid it. And if I've learned anything from therapy, avoiding your feelings does not actually make them go away. So I want you to acknowledge that it's weird. And I want you to acknowledge that it's weird for everybody so that you can move through it and not talk about only that. And I think in remembering that everybody is uncomfortable with Zoom. Everybody feels weird. And everybody's wondering if their hands look weird. And should I look at the camera or should I make eye contact with myself in my face or should I make eye contact with you? But you can't tell that I'm making eye contact with you. Like, it's weird. And if it's weird for everybody, then maybe that means it's not actually all that weird. That's what I would say. Oh, this is a great question. How can we boost morale in our PNMs and our ROGAMs? ROGAMs are recruitment counselors, which we use in the Panhellenic world. This is a really great question. And the truth is, it's going to be challenging. So one, I think it matters that we accept the fact that the world is uncomfortable and scary and hard right now. And people are allowed to be in their feelings and not feeling super motivated or excited to recruit virtually or go to virtual class again, right? Like for some of us, this has just been quarantine. But for some of us, it has been loss and sadness and hardship and financial struggle and world changing, right? So like people that are not in a high morale place right now, I think have earned it. And I think trying to get them into a rah-rah space is uncomfortable because there's plenty of reasons for people to not be in that space, if that makes sense. That being said, I don't think that wallowing helps long-term. So I believe that sisterhood is recruitment. I believe that sisterhood is recruitment. When we focus on our relationships with one another, when we build connections with one another, when we remind ourselves why we love our sisters, why we miss them so much, and why we joined this chapter in the first place, we are preparing for recruitment. And so I would stop trying to get them excited about recruitment and instead get them excited about sisterhood. Schedule some, I know it's hard to do sisterhood virtually, but I know you can do it because I have grown. I have relationships that have been strengthened with other women by COVID-19 and all of the distance between us because we're using technology differently. I think it is doable to build sisterhood from afar. And whether you use Instagram Live or FaceTime or House Party or Kahoots or whatever, there are really fun ways that you can engage your sisters, build memories, and build relationships from a distance. And so instead of focusing so much on recruitment, I would focus on sisterhood, because focusing on your sisterhood does help your recruitment process, because your sisterhood is what you're selling. It's what she's joining. And so the stronger it is, the more likely it is that the P&Ms will want to join it. I would remind Rogams that they are playing an incredible role, maybe this year more than ever, in bringing P&Ms to the sorority world, because there's so much unknown about recruitment right now, that they are going to be sort of like a guidepost for her. And so their role is even more important. And it's not going to look like what they wanted it to look like, but being a recruitment counselor isn't about her. It's about potential new members. And when we remember that we are there to serve her in what is such a confusing and weird time, I think it strengthens our purpose. So if we can help remind our Rogams that it isn't about them, it's about potential members, and helping them and remind them of all the ways they're going to be helpful, I think it's going to be really special. And to boost the morale of PNMs, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I want you to treat them like humans. I want you to give them the kindness and human connection that they maybe have been missing because of quarantine and COVID-19. I just want you to treat them like women in the world that you care about, because they are women in the world and they deserve to be cared about. So I hope that's helpful. I hope this is still helpful for y'all. I'm going to keep going. This is a lot of Tina. So welcome to my husband's life. I'm trying to put makeup on for my husband just for you all. Okay, here we go. How can we help potential members get excited after this insane summer? I want you to show them sisterhood. I want you to treat them like sisters. Show them what they're getting themselves into. Help them see that this is what it's like. I ask for your help. I care about you. I want to help you with your classes. I want to help you with all of the things, right? I want to do all of the things for you. I want to treat you like you're my little, even before you are. I want to treat you like we wear the same jacket before we do, because there is kindness in that. And I think you can teach them sisterhood before you extend them an invitation to membership. Oh, great question. How do we encourage those who are too afraid to speak out or simply do not care about the Black Lives Matter movement? It's a really great question, and is a relevant question both in sorority and outside of it, frankly. Everybody would answer this question differently. So let me say that I do not preach gospel truth in this department. I can only tell you what I would do, and how to use your power for good in the world, okay? I believe that, okay, Tina, choose your words. We are responsible for our membership. And by that, I mean, we gave them a bid. We invited them into our organization. Yeah. So it's really easy for us to just write that one person off as like, that girl, but like that girl wouldn't be in this organization if it wasn't because somebody else in this organization, a whole group of you, let her in. And so we have to remember that we are all complicit and participating in part of the problems with those people who don't care or don't want to have the conversations. So we have to own that. The other thing I would say is we hold a lot of standards meetings. There's a lot of rules that sorority women have to follow. We're really good at like calling them out for underage drinking. We're really good at if they get in trouble for a hazing situation, right? Like we hold our members accountable in some circumstances, but we don't hold them accountable for their racism. We care if they're following our values while they're underage and drunk, but we don't care if they're following our values when they're just saying racist things. My friend Dee Hawks, who's a member of Delta Gamma, she's the Greek advisor at Cornell. She's badass and one of my favorite women, posted a Facebook status the other day that essentially boiled down to, if we really are values-based organizations, when are you going to come for those women and their badges? We take badges for a lot of reasons. I don't know why this isn't one of them. So first of all, we need to eliminate the problems. We have to own that. That's part of our responsibility. The other thing I would say is, in my personal life, I find that it is far more important to have conversations with people who are part of the way there than not there at all. So there's a book called Motivating the Middle. It's written by a man called TJ Sullivan. And essentially, you'll resonate with this if you're a leader of your chapter regardless. Your chapter boils into like 3 different groups of people. The people that show up and want to do everything, the people who don't care at all and don't want to show up at all, and then the people in the middle. And as leaders of the chapter, we focus a lot of our energy on this bottom half, like this bottom third, like, come on, just show up to something. Like, we just want them to show up or care for one part of it, right? And we've spent so much time focusing on the lower end of the common denominators that we forget about this group in the middle that isn't apathetic and isn't completely disengaged. They're just not there for everything. And so instead, I want you to focus on the people in the middle. Like, you're not going to drag the people who are blatantly racist or blatantly say things like all lives matter across the finish line. But the people in the middle that are like, I don't know how I feel about the sentence Black Lives Matter. I totally understand their protests. I just don't know why they're rioting, right? Like, people who are there can be dragged to the other side, like can be brought to the other side. We just focus all of our energy and attention over here. And I would say it will suit your chapter and your sisters far more to focus on the people that are in the middle than trying to pull people all the way across the line. Those are the people I would take to standards. But that's just me. Okay. Ooh, Caitlin, this is shifting gears aggressively, but it's a really great question. Caitlin, how do I get our whole panel in the community to care about COVID-19 precautions? Sis. I don't know. I don't know. And I got to tell you, I don't say that with judgment, because when I was 20 years old, if I had to leave college 3 months early, move back in with my parents, be with my parents for 5 months, not get to go on the trip I wanted to go on, not work the summer job I wanted to work, not have any of the fun summer memories that I wanted to have. And then they told me I could come back to school, but I had to do it with a mask on and social distancing. I promise you the 20-year-old Tina would have been like, no. And I would have gone to the party without a mask on and had a great time. I'm going to own that. I was that girl in college. I know that. So I understand where those people are coming from. The people that are tired of wearing a mask and tired of stressing about COVID-19 and would just rather live in a world where it's over and we don't have to worry about anything. But it's not over. And so I think one of the ways that we can encourage them is through our values. And I know I keep saying that, but like, we tote about our values a lot. We talk about them a lot. And then when it comes time to act on them, we stop talking about it. But like, if one of your values is, I'm just talking about Delta Gamma, if one of the things that your organization believes in is doing good in the world, then I need you to wear a mask and I need you to stand 6 feet apart, because you might not get harmed, but somebody else is. If one of your values is love, how are you going to show up to a party without a mask on? How are you going to like walk up and hug somebody? You don't know if she has an immunocompromised system. You don't know if she's going to get hurt. If you love that person, you will do what you can to take care of them. So I want you to connect your values back to your behaviors. I think that matters a lot, and I think it makes it easier. This is a dramatic example, but I also think it's pretty relevant. I saw it on Instagram today. Some scientist, a white man, said, not wearing your mask in public is like drunk driving. You might not get hurt, but other people probably will. That's dramatic, but I'm just saying that might be a way to help get people to take it seriously. It's a great question. How do we make recruitment practices more intentional, especially if they are in virtual spaces? Virtual spaces give us permission to be intentional, because instead of worrying about what that person looks like or what we look like or what our space looks like or whether our presentation is perfect or whether they came to us and asked the question in the right way, we can only focus on conversations. We can only focus on getting to know each other. And I think that's the biggest intention we can have. That's the point. That's the whole point of sorority. It's for women to be there with each other. So it's kind of like my speaking stuff, right? Like, I've been a speaker for a long time and I talk about a lot of things, and I talk about fun things. I talk about serious things. And switching to virtual has meant that, like, you don't get the presence that I have on stage. There's no lights, there's no music, there's no microphone. Like, a lot of the shiny objects of the way that I show up in the world as a speaker have been taken away. And I work with a personal life coach because I think everybody needs some help. And I am one of those humans. So I work with a personal coach, and I was telling her, I was like, I just don't know how I'm going to do this virtual stuff. Like, all the magic that happens in the room is gone. Like, the way that they build relationships with each other in my room are like, the magic of the room is gone. And I don't know how, I can't replicate that on Zoom. And she said to me, Tina, the room isn't magic. You are. You create those spaces. You help those women feel comfortable. You are the magic. It's not the room. I roll in my context, but in your context, you're the magic. Your members are the magic. It's not the way they crushed that informational session. It's not the way that they perfectly rotated their bumps. It's them. They are the magic. You are the magic. And now you stripped away all the shiny objects, which means you just get to show up as yourself. And no, there's no microphone or lights or Beyonce playing in the background. And no, you can't actually look at each other and talk to each other. But I still believe that it's helpful that you're here. I still believe that I am able to help you, even though I'm not doing it in the way that I would choose. I think we just have to remember that we can be the magic. It's not necessarily the room itself. So, next question. Zoom activities, great question. There's actually a lot of options. And I would suggest doing a Google. I've done Kahoots, I've done game nights, I've done House Party while we Zoomed because we want to use video on House Party. So there are a lot of add-ons and plugins you can use. One of my favorite ones we did so far was this group of people that I volunteer with took, the person running the activity asked every single person, I'm assuming this is for non-potential members, for just your sisters, asked every single participant to give them 2 fun facts about themselves, and then they built us a trivia game. And we just like played trivia about each other and tried to figure out who was the person that played the oboe since they were 12. That was me. And who was the person who was an experienced belly dancer. That was not me. So we had to play trivia, and that was really fun. We learned a lot about each other. Also, something as simple, I know this is going to sound dumb, so stick with me, but like something as simple as a good old-fashioned show and tell is so fun. Like, go find the object that brings you joy in your house and come teach us all about it. I have a mug that has a bunch of birds on it. You might have seen it on Instagram if you're a victim to Instagram ads like I am. It has a bunch of birds on it, and all these birds have dirty-sounding names. And it's one of my favorite things. It brings me great joy. So I brought it in here and got to tell everybody about it. So there are some silly things that you can do with apps and with game structures that are worth a Google. And then there are things you can do that don't require you to add anything else, that just allow you to have a little bit more fun. One of the other ones we did was your worst adulting moment. So you had to go find something or show us something in your house or apartment that was like probably embarrassing. So of course mine was the plant that I killed. Somebody else was like, I haven't taken the recycling out in 7 weeks. Look at this pile of cardboard boxes I ordered from Amazon. So there are lots of ways to be creative. Worth a Google for sure. Remote bonding. This is so real. Okay, first of all, this is going to sound silly, but stick with me. If you go to my YouTube page, I did a session like this earlier in quarantine about sisterhood, even though, like, how to have and build sisterhood relationships, even though we can't be in the same room together. So there's a whole like 45-minute thing. You don't need to watch the whole thing. You can skip around. Although feel free to be charmed by me for another hour of your life. So you can get on there, and there's plenty of really great ideas there. I think doing sisterhood activities feels uncomfortable now, but honestly, when you get in a room to do a sisterhood retreat, that can feel uncomfortable too, because a lot of your members are like, oh, I can't believe we have to be here all day, right? So there are new barriers, but they're not the first time we've had barriers to building sisterhood, right? So I would encourage you to think about building sisterhood in smaller pockets. So instead of trying to do like, let's say you have a 200-person chapter, let's say you have a 10-person chapter, but they're all spread out and they work full-time jobs and it's complicated, you can create sisterhood in smaller pockets that still feels really powerful. And I want you to think about doing it outside of people's normal social circles, right? Outside of their line, outside of their pledge class, outside of their family tree. Like I want you to think about, what if you created a situation where 2 family trees play trivia against each other, or 2 lines play trivia against each other? That'd be really fun. Or you randomly mixed up members of the chapter and scheduled Zoom meetings for them or house parties for them, and they just came and played games together and had silly memories. It also doesn't have to be hours long. It can be 20 or 30 minutes, and it's still worth it. I don't know about you, but when I get one of those like nostril Snapchats or FaceTime calls from one of my best friends, it doesn't have to be an hour and a half. It can be 5 minutes, and it still makes me feel loved. And so we can create sisterhood. We can create love in smaller pockets as opposed to trying to do it at a really large scale. So that's where I would start. Great question. How do we use chapter meetings to advance conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And how do you do it without the chapter going insane? I think the way that we have these conversations will shift the way people show up to them. And so if we approach this as like, I know you're going to hate this, so we're going to do it anyway, then they're probably going to hate it. They're probably going to hate it. One of the reasons I think people have fun in my programs is because I know you're going to have fun. I don't suck at my job. Turns out I'm delightful. So if I walk in with that energy, then it gives permission for other people to have that energy. And so if you're going to start dedicating sorority time to having these conversations, the attitude with which you do so matters a great deal. And if you bring an unhappy, unexcited attitude to it, then you're going to give your chapter members permission to do the same. So I want you to try to approach it from a place of joy, from a place of purpose, and try to put positivity into it. I think that matters a great deal. I would say that going from 0 to 100 is too much too quickly. If you have never talked about this as a chapter and all of a sudden you talk about it for the entirety of every chapter meeting, then I think we're going to lose people. So I would say let's pace ourselves a little bit, and whether that means you dedicate 1 chapter meeting a month to this space, or you dedicate 15 minutes of every chapter to having conversations, sharing a new resource. It also doesn't have to be all, I did not read books in college. I didn't even read course books when I was in college, the ones I paid for to go to my classes. So if you told me like, Tina, we're gonna do a book club, I'd be like, that's adorable. I won't be there because I wouldn't have read the books. If your members will read the books, dope, do a book club. I love that. But you know what everybody's gonna do is scroll on Instagram. So what if once every chapter meeting you profiled another 2 or 3 badass Instagram accounts, either of multicultural organizations on your campus, other MPHC and MGC sororities who are doing badass stuff and we want to follow and share their shit, or there's an account on, there are millions of accounts on Instagram about social justice, diversity and inclusion and equity. There are women who are putting out incredibly important, meaningful things. There's an account, I want to find the name of it, who is doing a 30-day racial justice challenge, wherein the members of everybody who participates has like a journal question every single day, and then they can post about it, kind of like a 30-day music challenge that I did in quarantine. I can't pull up the story. The account is Who is Kay Riley? Who is Kay Riley? And so that account, we can highlight things that aren't books or documentaries that our women aren't going to follow or watch, and instead meet them where they're at with content that exists on TikTok and Instagram that they're already going to look at anyway. So I think there are some smaller ways we can start to infuse education. One or other example I'll give you is that it is now a part of my bio. Every time I take stage, the sentence will be said, Tina believes Black Lives Matter. You stand up and read your creed or your purpose or whatever, a chapter. What if we just said out loud? What if we created space for the idea that Black Lives Matter in our organization intentionally? all the time. So I think there are ways we can do it that don't feel so dramatic or so painful, but are still meaningful. I hope that helps. Great question. This might be my last one, but let's see how long it takes me to answer it. Like I said, brevity is not my gift. So Natalie says, I come from a chapter of 15 people and majority of people are graduating this year. So we need to recruit. We've always struggled with getting people interested, and we're a STEM sorority. So how can we get people more interested and to find us? Love that. First of all, STEM sorority means they're academically in the STEM world, but also still provide social and service opportunities for women in general. It's dope. Worth your time. But I think this is something that's relevant for organizations across councils, for our MPHC and MGC sisters who are not recruiting, who have a much moratorium on taking members this year, and for our Panhellenic organizations that maybe traditionally struggle in a formal recruitment environment and maybe also graduated a lot of seniors. It can feel like this year is like setting us back instead of propelling us forward, right? Especially if we're graduating a large class of people. So I totally hear that and feel the pain. And if we look at it through that lens, that's exactly right. I also believe that if we look at it through the lens of, oh, there are no rules this year, which means we can do whatever we want. Now, obviously there are still rules. If you're on a moratorium, that's a rule. And if you're not allowed to recruit with alcohol, that's a rule. Like, there are some rules that you need to follow, right? But like, I think with the elimination of, I think this will help all sororities. The elimination of a structured, a formal, a traditional Panhellenic formal recruitment. It means that some women will not know anywhere to look for sorority, will find the formal recruitment process virtual so weird that they might really want a sorority experience, but they don't want to go through that process. And I think it gives permission for all organizations, whether or not you're Panhellenic, to recruit differently, because everybody's recruiting differently. And so I would start thinking creatively about ways that you can show up meaningfully for those groups of people. And maybe that means you host a virtual happy hour for STEM women. And you don't call it a sorority event. Don't put your letters on it. Because if you put your letters on it and I'm afraid of sorority, I'm not coming. When a lot of people, when they see Greek letters, assume not good things. And so don't put your letters on it. Just be a group of STEM women who show up to do badass stuff and have cool conversations. Just do that. And then invite these women to come and hang out. And then do another one. Maybe do a double, like every other week or once a month. And then eventually you can mention sorority. They might even ask when they see some of you casually wearing letters, but you don't all roll in with matching t-shirts on Zoom. That's weird. You instead just create spaces for those women to matter in the world. If you are a Latina sorority, create a group, create space for Latina women to join together on Zoom or to exist on campus with social distancing apply, so that we can start to have conversations about just what it means to be Latina women in the world. You don't have to put your letters on that. You can just do that. Be good and kind. And then eventually we can bring the sorority up for those who are interested. But I think there are ways we can put sorority out there that don't feel so much like aggressive recruitment. And I think that level of kindness will make people want to join our organizations. Zoom recruiting. Okay, this is the last one we're going to do because I still have 4 minutes left. Zoom recruiting is powerful because it's awkward for everybody, and so we can all just move through that, because it takes away a lot of the formal presentation of it all. And Zoom is a little vulnerable. My Wi-Fi could shut down in the middle of this. Laura's might have. Laura's Wi-Fi might have completely tanked out in the middle of this, and she might have had to re-sign in, right? Like, there are so many things we can't control. And when I'm putting myself out here into the internet, I'm hoping that you're laughing, but I can't hear you. I'm hoping you're engaged with me and paying attention to me, but I can't see you. You could be cleaning your room right now. You could be watching Friends right now. You could be doing you could be in the shower and just like have this on in the background. I don't know that. Now for Zoom recruiting, you're probably gonna be able to see what the other person is doing on the other side. But the point is that because the circumstances are so weird and because you're like literally inside my home right now, right? Like normally I'm on a stage in front of you, but you are in my second bedroom right now. So there's parts of it that are just vulnerable. It's different. And I think in some ways that lowers walls. That's it. I just saw that and that brings me joy. In some way, I think that lowers walls. And in other ways, I think that can bring walls up. Okay. So I want us to celebrate the ways that it lowers our walls. Because I'm in my home, I'm maybe even more comfortable. I'm like sitting in a chair. I'm not sitting up with perfect posture. I'm not standing in front of you with heels, right? Like there are pieces of this that feel a little bit more casual. And I think that's a good thing. I think we can have more real conversations because I'm not presenting. It feels like we're just having a conversation, right? The other piece of that matters greatly is that if the walls go all the way up so much so that we stop connecting, we stop sharing, then it keeps us from being able to have meaningful conversations. And so I would encourage your members to lean into the vulnerability of it all. Like I make the joke about pants every time I do this, but you know I have sweatpants on right now. You know I do. 1000%. Sweatpants and Birkenstocks. That's what I got on under here right now. No joke. And I think that makes me feel more comfortable and less guarded, right? I'm in my own home. I could literally go get the plant that I killed from the shelf because I haven't thrown it away yet either. So like, I think we can lean into some of the vulnerability because I'm sitting here in my sweatpants. I'm talking to you like I'm sitting here in my sweatpants. And I think that facilitates more authenticity. I don't think that's something we should be afraid of. I think that's something we should celebrate and lean into because honestly, in a lot of our processes, but especially a Panhellenic process, there is a lot of performance that goes into recruitment. So much so that I don't know if we're actually meeting who the real women are. We're meeting the presentation of them. And same with them when they meet our chapter. They're meeting the perfect presentation version of us, not our authentic selves. And Zoom might help us show a little bit more of our authentic selves. So I know I didn't get to answer all of the questions, but I hope that I answered ones that were helpful to you. Laura, can you put my contact information in the chat for me too, please? Laura's so you'll have my cell phone number, my email address, and my Instagram handle, okay? I want you to DM me. I want you to email me if you need to. Know that this doesn't have to be the last time that we have a conversation, okay? That handle that's gonna go in there is also my Twitter handle. I don't really tweet a whole lot, but that's the Instagram and email are the best ways to get a hold of me, okay? I'm terrible at text messages. I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel like text are the boss of me, and I refuse to reply. I'm not good at it. So email and DMs are the best way to get in touch with me. And I want you to know that you can tag me in. If you have questions, we can continue this conversation. This does not have to be over. I want to help. I want you to know, I want you to believe that sorority is important right now. Because of what is happening in the world, I don't know if sorority has ever been more important. Sorority is about women connecting with and loving women. Sorority is about bringing women together. Speaking of which, some women in the chat are like throwing their contact information so they can keep brainstorming. I freaking love that. So if you're interested in that, get in there. Sorority is about bringing women together. Sorority is about women giving back to their community. Sorority is about women loving each other. And our world right now needs love. Our world right now needs connection. Our world right now needs service. And these are things that sorority stands for. Sororities have never been more relevant than they are right now, if we do it right. And so when you go to recruit and add members, or if you are in a moratorium and aren't recruiting, when you go to make friends so that you have a larger pool of humans to choose from when it is time to bring a line across, I want you to do so remembering that our sororities were created for this exact thing, to reach out to women who are going through hard times, to love women who need love. That's the point. That's why we were created. And so recruitment is about giving the gift of sorority to people who need it the most right now. And if you approach recruitment or whatever growth process you go through with that attitude, that our organizations exist to uplift women, and that's what we get to do when we invite them into our process. When we remember that this new virtual world of recruitment and growth might actually lower the barriers that keep people out, I think we have the potential to prove to the rest of the world that sorority is relevant right now too. Prove it to ourselves. So be a good person and try to help women. I don't think there's anything we can do that's more sorority than that. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you got something out of it. If a new idea, a new nugget, some comfort, some love, something. I wish I could give you a physical hug, but I can't. So I'm hugging you with my brain right now. I was about to say with my mouth. That's weird. With my brain. I'm hugging you with my brain. And I care about you a lot. If I can help you, please let us know. Email, Instagram, you'll get an email from us with this recording so you can send it to some of your sisters if you think that will be helpful. You'll also get emails with our recruitment services. So if we can help your chapter or your community or your organization, please don't hesitate. I'm so grateful that you were here. I'm so grateful that you're sharing your social medias with each other right now. Please keep doing that. I hope that it was helpful and I'm grateful for you. But it is 8:30. She's been here for an hour and a half and it's time to go. So I care about you all. I'm hugging you with my brain and good luck and let me know if I can help you. Go help other women. Go do it. It's important.